Hi everyone, I'm Reading with Jack and today I'm here with my October wrap-up and November to read pile for 2014. I can't believe we're already in the penultimate month of the year already. That is just ridiculous. This year has gone so fast and I feel like overall I've definitely read quite a lot of good books. I've really enjoyed my reading experience this year. Even though I didn't read a lot in October, I still read some really good books that I want to recommend, and hopefully November will be a good month as well. I have some really exciting reading plans. So without further ado, let's get going and let's start by talking about the books that I read in October. The first book that I read in October was The Maze Runner by James Dashner, and I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. It's basically a post-apocalyptic dystopian science fiction novel, and the main character is called Thomas. He wakes up in this maze and he doesn't know anything about himself apart from his name. He discovers that there are other people in this maze as well who are also trapped, and they don't know anything else but their name either. They don't know why they're in this place, and all they know is that every morning the doors of the maze open and every night they close. Every single month a new boy is entered into this maze. It's quite a hard concept to explain, like a lot of science fiction dystopia concepts are, but it was very interesting. It was so intriguing, very unique. I've not read anything like it before. I feel like some people compare it to the Hunger Games, but that is not true. You know, it's not like the Hunger Games. It is not like the Hunger Games. There is really good pacing in this book. I really feel like it's very intense and exciting throughout. I really had to keep reading because there was just a feeling of intensity with every single page. I also really like the writing style in this book. I felt like it was very fast-paced, very easy to understand, and the only thing I would point out about it that could have been slightly better was perhaps a little bit more development of the characters. I felt like I could have emoted with the characters more if there were more development. The author definitely could have gone further overall. Although it was a very enjoyable read and there weren't really any main problems, I just felt like overall it was a little bit underwhelming in comparison to other YA dystopias that I've read. So although I am happy that I read it, it didn't blow me away. It was just a very nice read. The second book that I read this month was actually a reread. I read it for the first time in June for part of my classics month, and I had to reread it for English literature, and I really enjoyed it the second time around. I actually feel like I enjoyed it more, and my opinion and rating changed a little bit, and it is Wuthering Heights, which now has a 4 out of 5. Because this is quite a hard concept to explain, again, I'm so bad at explaining things, I am going to read out the back of the book because I feel like it explains everything in such a good way, and it really sums up everything that you need to know. Wuthering Heights is the wild, passionate story of the intense and almost demonic love between Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff, a foundling adopted by Catherine's father. After Mr. Earnshaw's death, Heathcliff is bullied and humiliated by Catherine's brother Hindley, and wrongly believing that his love for Catherine is not reciprocated, leaves Wuthering Heights only to return years later as a wealthy and polished man. He proceeds to exact a terrible revenge for his former miseries. The action of the story is chaotic and unremittingly violent, but the accomplished handling of a complex structure, the evocative descriptions of the lonely moorland setting, and the poetic grandeur of vision combine to make this unique novel a masterpiece of English literature. In this book, I feel like there is very strong characterisation, particularly with Catherine and Heathcliff. They are just constructed so well, and I feel like they're very passionate and, you know, over the top in a way, and I think that's great to read about. Reading it a second time, I definitely feel like I felt more emotions towards them. I picked up on more elements of their character. The plot is also very intense, just like the characters. There are so many arguments between characters which are great to read about, and although I felt like the intensity was a little bit inconsistent, overall there was lots of mystery, and that got me through the entire book. A great sense of intrigue, definitely one that kept me reading and thinking throughout. As the synopsis says of this book, there is so much amazing vivid description. It's so poetic as well in terms of the language that is used, and I really liked that. I really picked up on a lot of symbolism and imagery, particularly animal imagery. That came up a lot with all the characters. Obviously they're very wild and crazy at Wuthering Heights, and I think the animalistic imagery really reflects their character. The only thing that really irritates me about this book is Joseph. I really do not like the way his dialogue is written. This was the case the first time. It's basically written with a very strong Yorkshire accent, and I'm from Yorkshire and I don't understand half of it. It's very strange and kind of annoying, actually. I don't really need it to be written in that way, to be honest. I kind of get that it's written in the way to communicate his lower status, but I don't think it works well. Overall, it is not my favourite Brontë novel. That still definitely goes to Jane Eyre by miles. That is just such a good novel. But this is still amazing. The second time around, really good. I'm very happy that I enjoyed it, and I can't wait to study it in more detail in English literature and learn a little bit more about the Gothic genre, because that is what the book is based around. So overall, 2 books in October is not terrible, but I was reading at a very slow pace. I was actually annotating a lot of Wuthering Heist as I went through because of English literature, so I think that kind of slowed my overall pace down of reading that book. But it was still very enjoyable, very interesting to analyse, and of course the Maze Runner was very exciting as well. So I definitely think they're both ones that I would recommend. They don't really stand out as absolutely perfect books to me, but they're still really interesting and definitely recommendations. So now let's move on to my November to be read pile. The first book that I'm going to be reading this month is actually a play. It's a French play, so I'll be reading it in French of course, and it is by Molière, who is my favourite French playwright. However, I don't have it with me right now because I don't have the physical copy. I'm going to have to read it on my Kindle, so I will post a picture of Les Femmes Savantes on the screen right now. I actually saw the play earlier this year and I only read extracts from the actual written play, so I'm very excited to read it and, you know, find out things in more detail and remind myself of the really exciting and interesting, very complex plot. It centres around 2 people who are in love, but they have to overcome a lot of difficulties. Some people agree that they should be married, other people don't, and there's quite a lot of problems with their relationship. Les Femmes Savantes in English actually means the learned ladies, and they basically have an obsession in life for learning about things and for different cultures, and they're constantly discovering things, and it follows their discoveries and problems throughout the entire play, and I really enjoyed watching the play. I thought it was very interesting to watch, and watching a comedy in French is quite different to watching a comedy in English, but I definitely still found that it was quite humorous, so that is a good thing, and I'm really excited to read the play. Hopefully I will enjoy it. The second book that I'm going to read is one that I am really excited about because I was reading about this book, finding a little bit more about it in more detail, and honestly it sounds amazing. It is The Prisoner of Heaven by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I think I actually planned to read this in September, but I never got around to it, but finally it is time to read it. It's finally time to finish the Cemetery of Forgotten Books trilogy. This one is set in Barcelona in 1957, so a little bit of a different time compared to the other books. I really enjoy how the trilogy explores, you know, a different range of different years. In this particular book, it's actually Christmas time, and the main character, Daniel Saint-Pierre, has a wife, and he has quite a lot to celebrate with her. They've just had a baby, and someone that they know very closely has just got married. However, they have a bookshop, and there is a stranger visiting the bookshop and actually threatening them to reveal a terrible secret that hasn't been revealed for over 2 decades. It takes them back to the dark adventures of 1940s and Franco's Spain, which is something that I'm really excited to read about. I really find that very interesting. It's such a very complex era with so much to learn about. We also find some information about this book that actually affects the reader's opinion of the second book, which is going to be quite interesting. I won't explain loads of that because I don't know if it's a big spoiler or anything. I found it online, but hopefully that will be interesting to read about. I'm very excited because I love Carlos Ruiz Zafón's way of telling a story. I love his very vivid language and his approach to just explaining everything, and I love the fact that his books are translated so beautifully as well. I just think, you know, absolutely perfection. I really am excited to read this book. The final book that I'm hoping to read this month is probably going to be a bit on and off throughout the month. It's again one for English literature, and I'm going to hopefully be finishing it this month. It is The White Devil by John Webster. I'm currently on Act 3, and I find it quite interesting, though it's very hard to understand. The language is very complicated. I have to use a lot of study guides and online references. On the back, it basically explains a passionate adulterous affair which unleashes the powerful revenge of their enemies. While clearly guilty of lust and murder, these unsavoury characters become startlingly heroic under pressure, challenging both the conventional moral judgments and oppressive social forces. I definitely feel like from reading this play so far, I've definitely got those very strong themes already, and it's really interesting to see the language and how that reflects the characters. Again, a lot of symbolism and imagery, which is always great to pick out. It's an interesting one. It's probably going to be the most challenging book that I'm studying this year, but, you know, sometimes I like a challenge, so hopefully I will enjoy studying it and learning about it in more detail. So everyone, here are all of the books that I mentioned in this video. I really enjoyed the books I read in October. They were really interesting, and I'm feeling very optimistic about the month of November, so hopefully it will be a good reading month. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Don't forget to let me know down below in the comments what you read in October, any good recommendations you have, and also what you're planning to read in November as well. Also, how is your general reading challenge going for the year? I am currently on track to read 25 books, which is a good thing. That's my Goodreads goal, and I definitely feel like I will be able to meet that challenge by the end of the year. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you all again in my next video.